My girlfriend dumped me after finding out I was broke and had huge debts. But she didn't expect what happened next. Chapter 1. James had always believed in giving his all at work, in love, and in life. At just 27, he had climbed fast, landing a management position at a respectable firm. Long hours, endless pressure, and barely any sleep. It was brutal, but he wore the struggle like a badge of honor. He had goals, dreams, and most of all, he had someone he thought he could build a future with. Her name is Clarissa, sharp-tongued, beautiful, with an expensive taste and a heart he assumed was made of something warmer than ice. They met at a charity gala. She'd been different back then, or at least pretended well. 6 months into the whirlwind romance, he proposed, thinking he'd found someone who loved him for who he was, not what he had. He was wrong. It started with subtle hints: we need to upgrade the ring, I can't be seen in that car, your apartment's okay, but wouldn't a condo downtown make more sense? Clarissa's voice was coated in sweetness, but James began to notice the sour taste underneath. Still, he tried. He bent. He stretched his budget, maxed his cards, and said nothing when she spent hundreds on handbags and dinners with her friends, all charged to his account. Her smiles came only after a purchase. Her touch only after a transfer. Then everything came crashing down. The company downsized. James, along with several others, was let go. He'd seen it coming. The market had been rough, but it still hit hard. He had debts now. Loans from keeping up the lifestyle she demanded, and no safety net. When he told her, it wasn't during a romantic dinner or on a scenic walk. He simply sat her down in the apartment, the one he was now struggling to pay rent for, and said, "Clarissa, I lost my job. And I have some debts. I was wondering if maybe you could help. Even just support me emotionally until I get back on my feet." She stared at him like he had spat on her shoes. "Help you?" she scoffed, arms crossed, flawless makeup untouched by the emotions she refused to show. "I'm not here to babysit a broke man, James. You've dragged me into your financial mess." His heart thudded once, twice, then grew oddly still. "Clarissa, I thought we were building something together. We were when you were somebody. But now." She stood, grabbing her designer purse. "I didn't sign up for this. A broke fiancé? A future of debts and disappointment? No, thanks." And just like that, she walked to the door. "Oh," she added as she looked over her shoulder, "you can forget about the wedding. I'm breaking up with you. Find someone else to save you." The door clicked shut. Silence filled the apartment. James sat there, staring at the empty space where she once stood. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He smiled. Because in that moment, clarity hit him harder than the layoff ever did. She was never his partner, just a passenger enjoying the luxury of the ride. And now that the car broke down, she'd bolted without a second thought. He looked around the apartment, still full of her leftovers, shoes, makeup, empty perfume bottles. It reeked of pretense and glittering lies. He stood up, walked to the window, and took a long breath of the evening air. 6 months. That's all it took to reveal the truth. Better now than years later with a shared account or a legal battle. He laughed quietly to himself and whispered, "Thank you for showing me before it was too late." James knew this wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. One where he wouldn't be used, drained, or devalued. One where he'd rebuild, stronger and smarter. Not for someone else's approval, but for himself. Chapter 2. James stood there for a long moment, soaking in the silence. Then, without hesitation, he reached for his phone, scrolled through his contacts, and dialed. "She's gone," he said when the call connected. There was a pause on the other end. Then came a chuckle. "So, we're going ahead with the next plan?" James chuckled, his voice calm but firm. "Yeah, it's time." He ended the call and took a slow walk around the apartment. The traces of Clarissa, dresses draped over chairs, designer handbags on the shelves, and pieces of jewelry carelessly tossed on the vanity like they were meaningless. One by one, he gathered them. The expensive things he'd bought her, the luxury dresses, the handbags, the glittering bracelets and earrings, he placed them carefully in a large suitcase. The rest, things she had left behind that held no real value, used cosmetics, cracked phone cases, receipts from places she never invited him to, he dumped straight into a black trash bag. His movements were steady, unhurried, almost ritualistic. Like shedding an old skin. A sharp knock at the door pulled him from his task. When he opened it, a familiar grin greeted him. "Damn, you work fast," said Marcus, his best friend since college. Tall, broad-shouldered, and always full of sarcasm, Marcus stepped inside and glanced around at the half-packed room. "Is this the famous purge?" James smirked. "That's the cursed stuff. You sure you want to touch it?" Marcus laughed. "Hell yeah, man. You know I can flip this junk and make a decent buck at the flea market. There's always someone desperate for overpriced drama." James handed him the suitcase, both of them sharing a look that said, "Thank God it's over." They packed the rest of James's things together. Clothes, books, a few framed photos, none of Clarissa, just memories of his family, friends, and achievements that actually mattered. In the corner, his sofa waited to be wrapped, the same one his parents bought him as a housewarming gift when he landed his first big job. The kitchenware too, pots, dishes, and even that old blender his mom insisted he keep in case of smoothies or sudden soup cravings. Those were coming with him. "Man, I still can't believe she thought you were in a huge dilemma," Marcus said with a laugh as he taped up another box. "She looked at you like you were a charity case." James grinned. That was the point. She showed her true colors. And the best part? He leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. "I'm not actually broke. Just laid off." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Wait, seriously?" "Yep," James nodded. "Took a few weeks off after the layoff. Then landed a better job in Ridgewell. They offered me a higher salary and a relocation bonus. I signed the contract last week." Marcus whistled. "You sneaky bastard." "I didn't tell her," James said with a shrug. "Figured if she's only in it for the money, then let her believe it's all gone." And she did. She left without asking a single thing about how I was doing. Just took off. "Dodged a bullet, man," Marcus said, slapping him on the back. "A whole damn bazooka." They laughed, and for the first time in weeks, James felt light. Later that day, after the movers came and loaded the last of the boxes, James locked the apartment door for the final time. He didn't look back. The new place in Ridgewell was a bit bigger, quieter, and far from the chaos. It had a view of the lake, a modest balcony, and more peace than he'd known in years. More importantly, it was his, bought in his name, with no one leeching off his efforts. Why move so fast? Because holding on to dead weight never helped anyone rise. James was done bleeding for people who couldn't love him without a price tag. This was his reset. His clean slate. No more masks. No more gold-digging dreams. Just him and a future that didn't need to be shared with someone who never deserved a place in it. Chapter 3. A few weeks before Clarissa walked out of his life for good, James and Marcus had met up at a downtown cafe for a quiet chat. The place was tucked between a bookstore and a vintage record shop, a hidden gem they often visited when they wanted to escape the noise of the city. They had just settled into a booth near the back, 2 coffees between them, and were deep in discussion about a freelance tech consultancy gig Marcus was trying to rope James into when James froze mid-sentence. His brow furrowed and Marcus noticed. "You good?" "Shoo," James whispered, tilting his head slightly. From behind the divider just a few feet away, a voice rang out clear, sharp, and far too familiar. "I swear, it's almost boring now," Clarissa said with a smug little laugh. "All I have to do is pout or look annoyed and he opens his wallet. Like clockwork." James's jaw clenched. Marcus went quiet too, straining to listen. Another girl giggled. "So what did you ask for this time?" "A Louis Vuitton bag," Clarissa replied. "And guess what? He bought it the same day. Idiot. I should have asked for the diamond earrings too. Maybe I still will." The girls burst into laughter. James's stomach turned. "And you should have seen his face when I told him I might not like cheap weddings," she continued. He actually looked stressed. "Like, babe, if you're poor, just say that." More laughter. Then another voice chimed in, a woman James didn't recognize. Okay, so I guess I owe you the $100, Clarissa," she said. "You really bagged the proposal after we bet during the gala. I thought you were bluffing when you said you could get him and pop the question in under 6 months. Clarissa's voice turned smug again. "Told you. Just a little pressure, a lot of sweet talk, and boom, down on one knee. Like taking candy from a child." That was all James needed to hear. He sat there in silence, coffee untouched, eyes fixed on the table. Marcus looked at him carefully, unsure whether to be furious or sympathetic. James gave a cold chuckle. "She really said that, huh?" Marcus leaned forward, whispering, "Man, what are you gonna do?" James stared at nothing for a few seconds. Then, slowly, he smiled, just barely. It wasn't a smile of heartbreak. It was a smile of awakening. "Let her keep thinking I'm dumb," James said. "Let's see how far she gets when the ATM stops dispensing." From that moment on, James stopped seeing Clarissa as the woman he loved. Instead, he saw her for what she was, an actress playing a role, all sparkle and sweetness until the lights went out. So he played along. Gave her what she wanted. Watched carefully. Waited patiently. And when the time was right, he turned the tables. He told her he'd been fired. That he had debts. That things were falling apart, and asked if she could help. And just like he expected, her reaction wasn't love. It wasn't concern. It was revulsion. Perfect. It was all he needed to break free, walk away, and take back his peace. Chapter 4. Back to the present. The sun beamed through the open windows of James's new apartment, casting golden light over the wooden floors and fresh white walls. It was modest, but clean, peaceful, and his. The lingering scent of cardboard boxes and newly washed curtains mixed with the coffee brewing in the kitchen. James stretched his arms and looked around, feeling lighter than he had in months. As he finished folding the last of his shirts and placing them neatly into the wardrobe, he suddenly remembered one final task that had slipped his mind the night before. He picked up his phone, sat on the edge of the bed, and called his bank. "Yes, I'd like to close an account," James said with calm efficiency. "It's my supplementary credit card." "Yes, she's no longer authorized to use it. Please cancel it immediately and close her access." "Right? No replacement needed." Once he received the confirmation, James leaned back and let out a small laugh. Now it's official, he thought. Cut off completely. With a satisfied smirk, he stood up, grabbed his shopping list, and headed out to the local market to restock his fridge. As he walked through the vibrant street stalls, the air was filled with the scent of spices, fresh produce, and sizzling food from nearby vendors. He picked up fresh vegetables, rice, some seasoned meat, and a few bottles of local wine. Nothing too fancy, just enough to celebrate. Meanwhile, across the city, Clarissa twirled in front of a boutique mirror wearing a shimmering blue dress that clung perfectly to her figure. Her friends clapped and complimented her endlessly. "That's the one, babe. You need to get it," said Sasha, eyeing herself in a designer leather jacket. "Let's just get everything we like," Clarissa laughed, high on the moment. "James will pay. He always does." The cashier rang up the items: dresses, jackets, heels, bags. The total was jaw-dropping, but Clarissa waved her hand like it was nothing and handed over James's card. Beep. Processing. Then a beep again. Declined. The screen flashed red. Clarissa blinked. That's weird. Try again." The clerk nodded, swiped the card again. Declined. Clarissa's face paled. She nervously took the card back and tried to laugh it off. Must be a system error. She quickly dialed James's number. Once. Twice. No answer. She tapped out a message. "Hey, baby, I need money right now. We're shopping and your card's not working. Call me ASAP." No reply. Her friends exchanged awkward glances. The clerk cleared her throat, trying to smile despite the growing line behind them. "Do you have another card? Or maybe cash?" Clarissa's face tightened. I wasn't planning to pay today." Her friends slowly pulled out their wallets, but the mood had shifted. Between the four of them, they barely scraped together enough to cover half the bill. The clerk began voiding items one by one as the girls argued in hushed tones over who should keep what. Behind them, shoppers sighed loudly and muttered. Sasha hissed, "I thought you had this." "I did." Clarissa snapped. "James must be having some issue, he wouldn't just cut me off." But deep down, a tiny sliver of doubt gnawed at her. Back at James's new apartment, he was opening a bottle of wine when Marcus walked in with a bag of snacks. "Any updates?" Marcus asked, grinning. "Yep," James replied, pouring them both a drink. "I closed my supplementary card. That she's finding out right about now." They clinked their glasses. "To peace," Marcus said. "To real freedom," James replied. And as they laughed and enjoyed the night, Clarissa sat stone-faced in the back seat of a taxi, her shopping bags fewer, her wallet lighter, and her carefully crafted fairy tale beginning to crumble. Chapter 5. The savory aroma of garlic and herbs filled James's cozy apartment as he stirred the pasta sauce on the stove, humming along to the mellow tune playing from his speaker. Just as he reached for the seasoning, his phone buzzed, once, twice, then a third time in rapid succession. He glanced at the screen, 3 missed calls and a string of desperate messages from Clarissa. "James, call me back. Something's wrong with the card. I need money. It's urgent. Pick up the phone." James let out a dry chuckle, setting his phone down on the counter without even replying. From the kitchen bar, Marcus leaned on his elbow, sipping his wine with a grin. "She really doesn't give up, huh?" James smirked. "Did she forget she dumped me?" Marcus raised a brow. "Or maybe she thinks she can still spend your money like it's nothing." James nodded thoughtfully, his smile twisting into something a little mischievous. "You know what? Maybe I should call her later tonight." Marcus laughed out loud, nearly spilling his drink. "Oh, now this I want to see. Let me grab popcorn for the show." Meanwhile, across town, Clarissa sat stiffly in the back of the taxi, staring at her phone screen in disbelief. The card still wasn't working. The messages were all marked as unread and James hadn't called back. Beside her, Sasha crossed her arms, visibly annoyed. "Clarissa, what the hell is going on? You promised you'd cover today." "I was going to." Clarissa snapped, trying to keep her composure. "James's card always works. I don't know what he's doing." Sasha frowned. Wait, didn't you say you broke up with him? Clarissa hesitated. Well, yeah. Yesterday. But he's in a lot of debt anyway and he started asking me if I could help and I wasn't about to. You dumped him and still tried to use his money, another friend blurted out. Girl, no wonder the card didn't work. Clarissa narrowed her eyes. He owes me, okay? I stayed with him even when he was broke. He should at least let me keep the things I got. Silence followed that statement. Sasha looked unconvinced. Clarissa suddenly gasped. Wait, I left my designer bags and heels at his place. And my gold earrings. No way I'm leaving those behind. The girls exchanged uneasy looks. You seriously want to go to his place now? Sasha asked. Clarissa nodded firmly. Yes. Before he throws my stuff out or gives it to someone else. Soon after, Clarissa and her friends were standing outside James's old apartment complex. The sky had darkened, casting the street in a cool indigo glow. A breeze rustled the leaves as Clarissa pulled out her spare key. She jammed it into the lock, but it didn't turn. What the hell, she muttered, trying again. It was useless. Did he change the lock? Sasha asked, arching a brow. Clarissa scowled, stepping back and pounding on the door with a closed fist. James? Open up. I just need my things. Knock. 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 No answer. She tried calling again. Straight to voicemail. The hallway light flickered above them and one of the neighbors peeked out from a crack in their door before quickly retreating. Sasha stepped aside, clearly uncomfortable. This is embarrassing, Clarissa. Maybe it's time to let it go. But Clarissa wasn't ready. Not yet. She pressed her forehead against the door, teeth clenched. He owes me. He can't just cut me off like this. After waiting for 10 minutes, they left feeling embarrassed. But behind the closed door was just an empty room. Chapter 6. In James's new apartment, he remained seated on the floor, half-finished meal beside him. He reached for his phone, his face straight but eyes gleaming with a mischievous plan. Marcus watched from across the room, already grinning with anticipation. James cleared his throat, composed himself, and tapped on Clarissa's number. He put the phone on speaker. It only rang once. James, Clarissa answered, her tone sharp and impatient. It's a good thing you finally called. I've been trying to reach you. I need to get my things from your apartment, my bags, my shoes, my perfume, everything. Where are you? James stayed silent for a moment, staring blankly at the floor. Then he let out a shaky breath and when he finally spoke, his voice was low and trembling, perfectly rehearsed. I'm sorry, he said softly. I didn't get your messages earlier. Things have been bad. Clarissa frowned on the other end. What do you mean bad? I just need my stuff, James. There's nothing left, James said with a hollow chuckle. The debt collectors, they came this morning. He paused for effect, letting the silence sink in before continuing. They took everything, Clarissa. Everything. Even the fridge, the old sofa. Said I owed more than I thought. And when I couldn't pay, they beat me up. He sniffed, making his voice crack. I'm at the hospital now. I had no one else to call. Clarissa scoffed. What does that have to do with me? I thought maybe you could help pay the hospital fees, he said, sounding utterly defeated. Just something to get me out of here. Please. I have nothing left. And all that debt, it started because I wanted to make you happy. You always asked for the best things and I just wanted to give them to you. That's why I borrowed all that money. On the couch, Marcus had to bury his face in a cushion, shoulders shaking with silent laughter. He mouthed, Bro, you're killing it. Clarissa was quiet for a second, clearly caught off guard by the emotional performance. But then her voice turned cold and sharp. I'm not coming to the hospital, she snapped. We're not together anymore, remember? I broke up with you. And now you want me to pay for your problems? You're just poor, James. You've always been poor, you just did it better before. But your things, James croaked. The bags, the shoes. They took them too. Said they'd sell them off to make up for the debt. I'm sorry. My Dior, she gasped. My Gucci heels? Gone, James whispered, voice trembling. They even took the blender. Marcus fell over onto his side, silently howling with laughter. You idiot, Clarissa spat. You're hopeless. You can't even keep your own crap together, and now you're crying over stuff you should never have bought me in the first place. Don't ever call me again. She hung up. The moment the call ended, the apartment exploded with laughter. Marcus rolled on the floor, clutching his chest. Bro, that was the best performance I've seen in my life, he cried. They took the blender? Man, I'm dead. James wiped away the fake tear he had forced from the corner of his eye and leaned back with a satisfied smile. She deserved every second of that. They clinked their glasses in a quiet toast, the first of many victories in James's new chapter. Chapter 7. As the warm evening breeze drifted through the slightly cracked window, the room filled with the comforting aroma of grilled meat and spices. James and Marcus dug into their food, drinks in hand, laughter still echoing after the prank call to Clarissa. Plates clinked, and the casual chatter made it feel like everything heavy had finally lifted off James's chest. Marcus leaned back on the couch, sipping from his bottle. Man, that was golden. I wish I recorded that call. The blender part? Iconic. James chuckled and wiped his mouth with a napkin. Oh, that's not even the end of it. Marcus paused, raising a brow. What do you mean? James leaned forward slightly, his expression calm but with a glint of devilish satisfaction in his eyes. There's one more surprise I have for Clarissa. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. No way. What is it? James gave a slow smile. You remember last week, before the whole breakup mess, when she kept asking for that designer perfume set, the latest iPhone, and those imported shoes? Yeah, and she said if you really loved her, you'd get them. James nodded. Well, I did get them. Marcus blinked. Wait, what? James took another bite of his food, chewed slowly, then said, but here's the thing. I took a loan in her name. I had enough of her using me, so I used a little of that personal info she gave me when we were still together. You know, when she trusted me. Marcus choked on his drink, coughing as he sat upright. You, what? I took a small loan to get her the things she wanted, James said casually. Used her details. Now the debt collectors would be looking for her. Dude, you're evil. Marcus burst into loud, uncontrollable laughter. That's cold. That's next level. You actually pulled the reverse Uno on her. James only shrugged as if it were just another item on his to-do list. I figured since she enjoyed spending so much of my money, she might as well start spending some of her own. Bro, you're not heartbroken anymore, you're on a revenge arc. Marcus wheezed. James grinned faintly, eyes still on his plate. I'm just done being the nice guy everyone walks all over. If I'm going to start over, I'll start with my dignity intact. They clinked bottles again, a silent pact of brotherhood and fresh beginnings. As the laughter died down, the two sat in comfortable silence, the weight of past wounds slowly replaced with the satisfaction of a well-played checkmate. Outside, the city lights flickered and cars buzzed in the distance, but inside the small apartment, James was already a different man, wiser, tougher, and no longer anyone's fool. Chapter 8. After that chaotic night, Clarissa made sure to erase every trace of James from her life. She blocked his number, deleted his messages, unfollowed him on all platforms, and even tore up the few pictures they had together. But in the back of her mind, the story he told about debt collectors and hospital bills lingered. She didn't want to believe it, but a small part of her did, and it made her nervous. She began to fear she might be associated with the mess somehow, especially with her name being tied to certain purchases. Still, that fear didn't stop her from living the life she thought she deserved. She partied harder, drank more, and flaunted what she had left. There were endless nights of neon lights, loud music, and flashing cameras. She posed with friends in designer dresses, holding champagne glasses, her laughter echoing in the background of luxury. It was at one of these exclusive rooftop parties, under the glow of city lights and a live DJ spinning beats, that she met him. Aiden. He was charming, confident, and dressed in expensive threads that screamed wealth. Unlike James, Aiden seemed to have it all, and she didn't hesitate to make her move. She approached him with her signature smile, and within minutes, they were dancing, laughing, and locked in easy conversation. From that night on, Clarissa clung to Aiden like a lifeline to her glamorous world. He took her to high-end restaurants with 5-course meals and live jazz. They took pictures together in seaside resorts. She wore new branded clothes and dazzling jewelry, some she claimed as gifts, others she bought with the last of her savings and credit. As long as the illusion held, she felt safe, powerful, desired. Meanwhile, on the quieter side of the city, James found himself thriving in simplicity. He's not flashy, just continued working with stable and peaceful mind. He no longer woke up stressed or checked his phone expecting drama. Most evenings, he cooked his own meals, read books, or simply sat on the balcony watching the sunset. Marcus would often drop by, and the two would hang out like they used to before the chaos of college and heartbreak. Every other weekend, they packed their gear and drove out to a nearby lake for fishing. They'd sit in silence, casting lines and talking about anything and everything, life, dreams, or sometimes nothing at all. It wasn't about the fish. It was about the peace. James had finally found his. Hard to believe, Marcus said one day, squinting into the sun, that a few months ago you were getting stomped on by that girl. James smiled faintly, tugging his cap lower. She gave me a lesson I didn't know I needed. You ever think about her? James gave a small shake of the head. Not really. I think I've made peace with it. She's living her life. I'm living mine, and honestly, I'm happy with where I'm at. Marcus nodded approvingly. Proud of you, man. You rose from the ashes like a damn phoenix. James laughed, flicking his fishing rod. Let's just say I stopped setting myself on fire to keep someone else warm. They both laughed, the sound mixing with the soft ripple of water and the distant cry of birds. Life had moved on, and for James it had never looked better. Chapter 9. One morning, Clarissa woke up with a headache from the previous night's party and lazily scrolled through her phone. Among the usual messages and social media notifications, a strange text caught her eye. It was from an unknown number. Notice, you are required to pay the monthly due on your outstanding loan balance. Failure to comply will result in legal action. Her eyebrows furrowed. What the hell is this? She scoffed and muttered, scam, before blocking the number and tossing her phone aside. She'd heard about fraudsters trying to scare people with fake debt claims. No way was she falling for that. But the next day, a similar message came from a different number, this time with more urgency. Moments later, her phone rang. Miss Clarissa Monroe, the voice on the line said coldly. Who is this? You're being contacted in regard to an active loan in your name. We have attempted to reach you several times. If payment is not made within the next 48 hours, further action will be taken. We are not obligated to warn you again. They took pictures together in seaside resorts. She wore new branded clothes and dazzling jewelry, some she claimed as gifts, others she bought with the last of her savings and credit. As long as the illusion held, she felt safe, powerful, desired. Meanwhile, on the quieter side of the city, James found himself thriving in simplicity. He's not flashy, just continued working with stable and peaceful mind. He no longer woke up stressed or checked his phone expecting drama. Most evenings, he cooked his own meals, read books, or simply sat on the balcony watching the sunset. Marcus would often drop by, and the two would hang out like they used to before the chaos of college and heartbreak. Every other weekend, they packed their gear and drove out to a nearby lake for fishing. They'd sit in silence, casting lines and talking about anything and everything, life, dreams, or sometimes nothing at all. It wasn't about the fish. It was about the peace. James had finally found his. Hard to believe, Marcus said one day, squinting into the sun, that a few months ago you were getting stomped on by that girl. James smiled faintly, tugging his cap lower. She gave me a lesson I didn't know I needed. You ever think about her? James gave a small shake of the head. Not really. I think I've made peace with it. She's living her life. I'm living mine, and honestly, I'm happy with where I'm at. Marcus nodded approvingly. Proud of you, man. You rose from the ashes like a damn phoenix. James laughed, flicking his fishing rod. Let's just say I stopped setting myself on fire to keep someone else warm. They both laughed, the sound mixing with the soft ripple of water and the distant cry of birds. Life had moved on, and for James it had never looked better. Chapter 9. One morning, Clarissa woke up with a headache from the previous night's party and lazily scrolled through her phone. Among the usual messages and social media notifications, a strange text caught her eye. It was from an unknown number. Notice, you are required to pay the monthly due on your outstanding loan balance. Failure to comply will result in legal action. Her eyebrows furrowed. What the hell is this? She scoffed and muttered, scam, before blocking the number and tossing her phone aside. She'd heard about fraudsters trying to scare people with fake debt claims. No way was she falling for that. But the next day, a similar message came from a different number, this time with more urgency. Moments later, her phone rang. Miss Clarissa Monroe, the voice on the line said coldly. Who is this? You're being contacted in regard to an active loan in your name. We have attempted to reach you several times. If payment is not made within the next 48 hours, further action will be taken. We are not obligated to warn you again. Clarissa's heart skipped. The voice was stern, too direct, and the way they said active loan in your name. It suddenly clicked. Her face went pale. She remembered James's phone call. Him saying the debt collectors hurt him when he didn't pay. The crying, the desperation. She'd thought it was all a joke, or a manipulative bluff. But now, felt terrifyingly real. With a shaky voice, she replied, Can I get a few days? I can find the money, I promise. There was a pause. Then the voice responded, You have 72 hours. The call ended. Clarissa sat on the edge of her bed, trembling. No, this can't be happening. Panicked, she immediately called Aiden. He picked up after a few rings, his voice groggy and indifferent. Hey babe, she began, trying to sound casual. I need a huge favor. I have this thing I need to pay off. It's just a small loan, nothing serious, but I need a little help. Could you send me? I don't have money, Aiden cut in bluntly. What? But, before she could finish, the line went dead. Call ended. She stared at her screen in disbelief. When she tried to call again, it didn't even ring. Blocked. Her breath caught in her throat. Her carefully painted world was cracking. Fast. What's going on? She whispered to herself, pacing. Her expensive heels clicked across the tiled floor, echoing the rising panic in her chest. She didn't even change her clothes. She looked around her apartment, designer bags, high-end makeup, jewelry, clothes. She had so many things, yet not a single item could help her now. She was broke, alone, and being hunted for a debt she didn't even remember signing up for. But somewhere in the city, James was sipping coffee with a calm smile, completely unaware, or perhaps entirely aware, of the storm now brewing in Clarissa's life. Chapter 10. Shaking with nerves, Clarissa spent the rest of the day reaching out to everyone she could think of. Her friend circle, former classmates, even a couple of guys she'd flirted with at parties. Each conversation ended with some version of the same excuse. Sorry, babe, I'm broke too. I've got bills of my own. Damn. I wish I could help, but I just paid rent. Even the ones who used to beg for her attention were suddenly nowhere to be found. Her fingers hovered over her parents' contact for a long while, but she knew better. Her relationship with them had been strained ever since she dropped out of school and became consumed with the high life image. They had warned her once, if you get into trouble, don't come running to us. Pride, stubbornness, or maybe just the fear of hearing, I told you so. Whatever it was, she didn't call them. Out of desperation, Clarissa turned to a different route. A fast cash loan app. High interest. Shady terms. Immediate approval. She didn't care. After filling out the forms, submitting her ID, and taking a selfie for verification, she got the notification. Loan approved. Funds disbursed. She sighed heavily in relief, her heart still pounding. Once the money hit her account, she immediately called back the loan collectors who had threatened her earlier. Hello? It's me again. Clarissa Monroe. I have the money now. Can you tell me where to send it? Also, I just want to confirm, this loan, is it really in my name? The voice on the other end didn't hesitate. We will send you the full file now. A few moments later, a PDF was sent to her phone. Her full name, her ID, the contract, the digital signature, and beneath that, itemized purchases, a Louis Vuitton tote, gold-plated necklace and bracelet, an iPhone 15 Pro Max, Gucci heels, designer makeup kits, and several receipts marked gift purchase. All those things James had gifted her last month. Her hands shook as she scrolled down. She felt her stomach twist. She didn't remember taking a loan, but then remembered James. Did he do it? Had James taken a loan in her name and used the money to buy her everything she wanted, only for it to become her debt in the end? Her throat tightened. Did he plan all of this? She lowered her phone, staring blankly at her reflection in the black screen. A bitter laugh escaped her lips, one mixed with disbelief and a sting of regret. He got his revenge. But whatever the reason, the facts remained. The loan was in her name, and the items were in her possession. That meant she had no choice. She had to pay. And she did, transferring the entire payment for the month, watching her balance plummet to almost nothing. For the first time in years, Clarissa felt powerless. No more free rides, no more spoiled gifts, only consequences, and a growing need to confront the man who turned her glamorous life upside down. Was it revenge, or something else? One way or another, she was going to find out. Chapter 11. Clarissa sat on her bed, staring at the ceiling as the weight of the situation finally settled on her chest. Her fingers hovered over her phone, trembling. She scrolled through her contacts until she found the name she never thought she'd search for again. James. With a shaky breath, she hit call. Ring. Then a robotic female voice answered coldly. The subscriber cannot be reached. Please try your call later. Her brows furrowed. She tried again, more forcefully this time, pressing the call button with urgency. Same voice, same message. Over and over, she pressed redial, hoping the outcome would somehow change. But it didn't. Clarissa's heart began to pound. She threw the phone down beside her and stared ahead in disbelief. Did he block me? Change his number? Or no? A horrible thought flashed across her mind. Is he even still alive? The last time they had spoken, no argued, was when he said he's at the hospital. After that, silence. He had disappeared from her life completely. Now she wondered if this was by choice or something else. I have to find him, she whispered to herself. He has to take responsibility. That loan, he made it. He bought the things. He should pay. But reality quickly slapped her across the face. She didn't know any of his close friends. They had dated, yes, but it was always her world they lived in, her friends, her parties, her life. James had always quietly gone along with it, never bringing her into his own circle. And back then, she never cared to ask. With renewed desperation, she turned to his social media accounts. She searched his name, scrolled endlessly through friends lists and mutual contacts. Nothing. His profile was gone, deleted, or maybe blocked. Either way, it was like he'd vanished from existence. The fear twisted deeper in her gut. What if something really happened to him? What if he's gone and I'm left with everything? She rubbed her temples, trying to think, to breathe, to come up with a plan. Then it hit her. She still had the items, the ones James bought her. The loan collectors didn't care how she paid, just that she did. Maybe she could sell them. Without wasting time, she gathered everything. The Louis Vuitton bag. The Gucci heels. The jewelry. The iPhone. Makeup kits. Designer perfume. She added in a few more accessories. Aiden had given her 2 bracelets, a sleek necklace, a branded clutch, and dresses. Maybe they'd fetch a good price too. She walked into a second-hand luxury shop in the city, one of those upscale resale boutiques where designer items were inspected and appraised by experts. A woman with a tight bun and sharp eyes greeted her. Are you selling? Clarissa nodded and handed over the items. The process took time. They examined each piece carefully, scanning serial numbers, checking tags, inspecting fabric, authenticity stamps, even sniffing the perfume. After a long silence, the woman looked up. These items, she held up the ones from Aiden, they're counterfeit. Good fakes, but fakes nonetheless. Clarissa's face dropped. What? But these, the woman continued, gesturing to the rest, the ones James had given her, these are real. High-end, original, and in excellent condition. I can offer you a good amount for them. Clarissa swallowed hard. It shouldn't have surprised her, but it still stung. James gave her real gifts. Aiden gave her lies. She nodded numbly and accepted the offer, watching as her former luxury life was carried away piece by piece, tagged and priced for someone else. As she walked out of the shop with a thick envelope of cash in her purse and an even heavier heart, a single thought echoed in her mind. Was James really getting revenge, or just making a point? Chapter 12. While Clarissa busied herself with pawning off the remnants of her once glamorous life, selling handbags, high heels, and perfumes, James was breathing in freedom like it was fresh mountain air. It had been months he hadn't looked back. No more heartache, no more fake smiles. Just peace. He'd managed to save consistently. His bank account finally looked like something he could be proud of. And now, as he stood outside the dealership, grinning at the sleek black Toyota Land Cruiser in front of him, it all felt worth it. He ran a hand across the glossy surface, his heart pounding with excitement. This wasn't just a car, it was a dream. Something he'd wanted long before Clarissa ever entered his life. The keys were placed in his hand and the dealer congratulated him. James stepped inside, inhaling the scent of brand new leather, and started the engine. The low hum of power underneath him sent a rush of thrill through his chest. He already had plans, weekend trips to the mountains, remote campsites, peaceful fishing spots by the river. The stars were coming out as he stood by his new car, a soft breeze passing through the trees. He took in a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past float away. The end. If you like the story, click like and subscribe for more. Thank you. Till next time.